Hello and welcome. In this video, we'll take a look at the Armoury Crate. That's the ASUS software that's used to administer the ASUS Zephyrus G16 or any other ASUS gaming laptop for that matter. We'll see what's new here in 2024. As we've seen in prior years as well, we've got a lot of different features here right up front when you land on the home page. When you first open the Armoury Crate, the first thing you see down here is the different modes. You've got the Windows mode, which means you have Windows in control of your power settings, silent mode, performance, turbo, and of course manual. And by default, performance is automatically set, which enables some nice things here such as the OLED care and dimming for the actual display. A nice to have feature. If you're gaming, you probably want to either stay in performance or turbo mode. So that said, we also have on the right here some panels which you can scroll through, and these are ultimately just shortcut versions or summarized versions of other stuff you'll find in the other tabs here in the Armoury Crate software. Right off the bat here, we've got CPU frequency, usage, our memory frequency, some temps on the CPU, and also voltages. Nice to see that right up front, along with our GPU frequency, the usage, the memory frequency, the temperature on the GPU, as well as how much potential wattage we can have allocated to that GPU. Really nice to see. This figure here, as most manufacturers and most control softwares generally omit this. Very nice to see that here up front and center. Thanks for that, ASUS. And finally, we see some memory and storage information here. We can see how much of our 1 terabyte SSD that comes stock is used, and we can see how much of our RAM is used up out of the 32 gigs. We also see our fan speeds here. I believe these spin up to 6,000 RPM. We also got a nice little readout here in terms of decibels. What is our fan acoustics? Very handy to see that here. Then we've got our GPU mode selection. Of course, this can also be accessed from the device menu here, but the GPU mode basically allows you to switch between discrete GPU mode, which means the Intel GPU is turned off and you're directly using the NVIDIA GPU at all times. We have standard mode, which is MS hybrid. We have eco mode here, in which case we only use the integrated iGPU on the Meteor Lake CPU, and the NVIDIA GPU is completely disabled. And finally, we have optimize, which allows you to switch to the dedicated GPU on AC power and the integrated GPU on battery life. And finally, we have some system configuration here. We can set up our panel saver information. We can turn on or off the boot sound. We can enable and disable our touchpad, and of course our Windows key as well for those really tough gaming sessions. And we have some CPU core information here. We can see that the Core Ultra 9 185H comes with 6 P cores, and we've got 8 P cores on board here with hyper-threading, so that means 16 plus 6 for a total of 22 cores on this CPU. Finally, we got some game launcher here, which allows you to quickly launch shortcuts to those games. Finally, we have the Rainbow Aura Sync and then the default game visuals. This allows you to configure the different display modes as well as the different color profiles we'll look at here in just a moment. So the main menu that you'll be using to administer your laptop and actually configure all of your gaming configurations is this device menu here over on the left. If you click on this here, you can actually see some text labels, which are nice and handy to understand what these are. If we click on device here, we see 3 different things. We see macros. This allows you to record different macros on your keyboard. We also have here the Aura wallpaper. You'll need to install a separate application for this, which allows you to get some wallpapers through ASUS if you'd like to customize and personalize your Windows experience. To administer your laptop specific items, you'll need to go to device and click on the Zephyrus G16. So here now we have some processes that are running in the background. It allows us to actually do what we can also do from the Windows Task Manager, which is to clean up or shut down some of these processes. In addition to the GPU modes here, they can also be accessed through the device menu by clicking on Zephyrus G16. That's your particular device that you have here. You can go over to the GPU power saving menu and you have 4 different options here. As mentioned earlier, Ultimate is for your discrete GPU. Keep in mind, switching to this mode does require a restart. You can also put it into standard mode, which means that it lets Windows manage it. With this option, I have seen it, lock or rather freeze when you launch into a game or launch out of a game for 2 to 3 seconds. You also have eco mode here, which will basically switch to the iGPU only, and it will completely disable the NVIDIA GPU. I do like this mode here, which is called the optimized mode. This is what will get you the advanced Optimus functionality. Keep in mind, to do this though, you'll also need to enable play mode to be selected to Optimus rather than automatic select. Additionally, you can turn on pop-up notifications to let you know when one of these modes has switched in or out. And of course, you can see here which processes are currently using the GPU. You can kill or refresh, and from here you can select for the iGPU how much level of memory you want to have allocated specifically dedicated to that. Moving along, we have a customizable hotkeys tab. Here we can manage the macro keys that are built in at the top of the keyboard. By default, these are set to manage some multimedia functions such as volume down, up, on, microphone on or off, as well as launching the Armoury Crate. These can of course be customized or created, using macro profiles to do lots of other functionality. Nice to see that enabled here. Lighting now this year with the latest Windows updates in 2024, we're now seeing many devices that are getting control of their RGB using Windows Dynamic Lighting. This is the first such device that I've come across this year, which means in order to access your Windows RGB settings or your laptop's RGB settings, you'll have to go into Windows Dynamic Lighting under personalization, go over to your laptop, and from here you can adjust the different modes. You can adjust the backlight, and you can go here and select the different modes. For example, if you select wheel, you can go through the color panel here and select the different options. So just something to keep in mind for this particular year, as you'll be seeing more devices starting to use this integrated Windows Dynamic Lighting control. And then we have here the slash lighting control. This is on the top lid where you have this LED light bar that you can actually customize. A few different options here to customize the different patterns, and you can actually customize the brightness level of this device as well, and the interval to slow it down or to speed it up. And there's a few other selections here that you can use to configure this, including turning it off when your battery power is low. And then we have an audio tab here with some modes for your microphone configuration as well as for your speaker modes. These are by default turned off. You can of course turn these on, and you'll see here this allows you to kind of channel the noise cancellation depending on if you're getting more noise from the right side or from the left side. A nice little feature to see here, considering that we have 6 speakers on this device and we have 4 microphones on this device versus the typical 2 we see with the Intel sound array. That said, you can use the directional recording mode to figure out where you want the noise cancellation to happen. If you're using the internal mics on this device, this is a nice and handy feature if you're streaming in a pinch or you just need to get some recordings done and need to have some clear audio from the internal built-in mics. And this year ASUS has added a resource monitor here, which allows you to monitor your stats for your device. By default here we only get FPS. Currently there's no game running, so we'll get a level 2 or a level 3 or a level 4, which just adds additional metrics that the laptop is now, or the ASUS resource monitor can capture. If we go over to level 2 here, for example, we can see FPS, our CPU frequencies, power levels to the CPU as well as GPU power. A nice little feature that you can use to record if you're monitoring your game and you don't want to bother with the trouble of installing a third-party utility such as MSI's Afterburner, CapFrame X, or what have you. Moving along, we have a modern standby assistant. So this is when you close the lid of your device, it goes into a hibernate mode. And then back over from the home screen here, we also have our Aura Sync. So this is for additional devices that you may own, such as RGB enabled devices that are controllable, or if you have an ASUS keyboard, ASUS mouse, or even other brands, you can control and sync those devices and their Aura effects from this panel here. Of course, you can go into Aura effects, select the effect that you want, and cycle through them. And you can also turn on in-game specific lighting effects as well as festive effects. Moving along, we have also a game visual tab. So this allows you to adjust the display's visuals for the OLED display that's built into this device. Starting off with the different color patterns here, we can start with just native mode, switch over to sRGB for gaming, or even DCI-P3 for some color work. Now if we go back here to default, let's go back to color calibration. Here we've got tick marks here showing that we have a pre-calibrated display, but you can actually proceed through the calibration again if you so wish. And finally, we have an OLED settings menu, since this has an OLED display. And this OLED care, these are turned on by default, or be sure they're turned on by default. I have this one to hide the taskbar automatically in desktop mode. Nice to see that, so you don't have any remnants on the screen which are displayed for a long time, as that may still cause some level of burn-in over an extended period of use. And then finally, we have OLED flicker. So this is an issue when you're actually dimming the display. When you dim the display, OLEDs can exhibit some flicker at lower brightness levels. So this is to compensate for that particular issue. And finally, we have here the target mode. This will make sure that only active window, the window that you're using right now, will be the one that's brightened, whereas all of the other areas are dimmed. And again, another effort in prolonging the OLED's overall life. We also have a game library here. This can scan all of the games that are installed onto your laptop and add them to this game library, giving you the ability not only to just launch them from here, but also to set up and create specific profiles. And these profiles can allow you to configure such things as the Aura Sync for your additional devices, the slash lighting on the top lid, the game visual mode, as well as turning on and off the touchpad and the Windows key for a smoother gameplay experience. There's also a feature tab here, which is akin to an ASUS game store. You can use this to find some interesting deals on games and pick up something that you have been waiting for. And finally, we have a news tab here. This is where you'll see all of the specific news, additional wallpapers from ROG like we can see here, and additional access to ROG forums and whatnot. Finally, we have here a user center. This allows you to get your service stuff set up and register with ASUS. And if we go into the settings tab here, there's 3 different things we can do here. Which page you want to land on for the Armoury Crate. We also have the ability here to go to Update Center and update everything if we find that there's additional updates available for our device. And finally, you can go to the About page to see versions of the application that's currently installed.